see you too. How are you?
Good. Just trying to stay cool.
Oh my God, it's so hot. We don't have air conditioning. I have like hopefully there's no air, not too many airplanes driving over or flying over during this because I have the patio open and normally I leave the front door open with the gate locked so that like there's like cross air
I just have a
coming
fan
through.
blowing on me at all times. So,
Oh yeah, it's just, and we have fans going, but it doesn't do much. It's just like I don't know. I think our house just holds heat and holds cold. So it's either cold or hot. And it's when you don't want it to be cold, it's cold, and when you don't want it to be hot, it's hot. So it's like you just
it's funny. So we're both just trying to, yeah, we've been having like major heat waves on the East Coast. So,
oof. How hot is it?
it's been in the 90s pretty consistently the last couple of weeks. Every day I'm like trying to get out in the morning and evening just to when it's not as hot. So,
Yeah, it
that's
feels hot
okay.
right now.
Well, thanks for, being a part of this interview series. I'm excited to have you on and have you talk more about your story. For those of you who haven't listened in on these interviews, they go up on a podcast or Passion Stories podcast, and I think it's fun to do them on here because we kind of get to be face to face and see each
Yeah,
other. And it's an opportunity, I think, for other people to share their story, how they've navigated to where they are. And I hope, those stories inspire other people to pursue some of their ideas or dreams. I know for me in the past, it's helped me, like if I feel like I'm in a rut or I'm not really sure what I want to do, if I pop on a podcast or read an article or something about somebody else who's done something that, I'm inspired by or admire, then it kind of gives me that like boost of energy that I need.
absolutely. I'm with you on that. I do the same thing.
Yeah. So,
Which is why I agreed to do this. I'm like, that's
yeah.
awesome, of course. Absolutely.
Do you want to introduce yourself and tell people who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Maja. I call myself a spiritual designer. It kind of combines everything that I do. I feel like super grateful. I'll give Ari a shout out. She actually helped me kind of. It's funny. Sometimes you just have to hear somebody say something exactly the right way in order for it to click for you, right? Like I guess maybe should I just tell you a little bit
Yeah.
about myself and then it'll kind
Yeah.
of so I came from the corporate world. I studied art, then I studied architecture, and found myself working at Gensler in downtown LA, like this amazing architecture firm, right? Like very well known in the architecture world.
Mhm.
And my mom was dying of cancer. I beat cancer, and in the midst of all of that, I really realized that I wanted to help people. And I left the corporate world and started teaching yoga. And I thought, you know what? Like, I'm going to teach yoga, like just tunnel vision. Like, I'm going to teach yoga. I'm going to do breath work. I'm going to do Reiki. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to stay right here in this lane. I'm done with art. I'm done with architecture. Like, that was in my past. Right. And then I realized how it was all one thing. Right. So now I'm designing yoga retreat centers all over the world, which is like, full circle for me, right? Because it's like how cool to have your life connect like that. And like, it takes it like there's not many, interior architects slash yoga teachers, right? So that's a very like specific niche thing to be able to design and to be able to have the knowledge to be able to design those is like just I don't know, I feel super grateful that I learned that, and that I'm able to help, do that now. So um that kind of combines everything that I do, but I am a Reiki master, I am a breathwork practitioner, I'm 100-hour certified, I'm a 200-hour vinyasa certified yoga teacher, so I also do a lot of corporate stuff. Yeah, I guess that kind of
I
it's
love
all one though, right? Like I think sometimes we try to be like, like I don't know, like how do I combine everything that I do? Like I feel like I'm so scattered, but I think when you can like define what you do, in one sentence, it really can kind of, I don't know, make it make more sense, I guess.
Yeah, no, I love it. And that's why, I wanted to have you on because I thought it was just, you making this business a real work of yours, combining your interests and skills, like, you know, when we hopped or when you came to my workshop, you were like, now I'm going to be designing retreat centers. That makes so much sense to me. You know,
Yeah, it made a lot of sense to a lot of people, but I was like, am I really gonna like? I don't know, you know, like
yeah.
I just did an interview with Voyage LA. I haven't even posted about it yet, but it's funny because I wrote it like a couple months ago, and so it's funny to see like the different mindset that I had when I wrote it.
Mm.
But I'm so grateful to my friend Andrea. Like, shout out to my friend Andrea. Like, she literally came up to me after one of my classes and was like, so Maja, I know you don't want to design anymore, but you know, I have this crazy idea to design these retreat centers all over the world. And like, I know you don't want to design anymore. I know you're just, you know, doing your yoga thing, but you're the only like yogi slash, you know, architect or interior designer that I know. Would you want to design these with me? And my jaw must have dropped to the ground. Like I didn't even, I was like, what? And it was crazy because the week before I had led like meditation and I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I just teaching yoga? Like, that's not all that I am. That's not all, you know, the range of me. And I was like shutting this part, this artistic side, you know, out from me for so long. And I, it took that realization and then someone giving me that opportunity. And then it just kind of
Right. Yeah,
clicked.
that makes so much. I think sometimes you need to hear someone else say out loud or sort of be a mirror back to you of
Oh,
what
absolutely.
you want.
Absolutely.
And you know,
I,
that's what I love about hearing about your work. It's like you're able to merge this, you know, interest and skill set with your yoga, teaching yoga and breath work, and with your interior design, like years of work in interior design, and now it's sort of all coming together in a way that, you know, maybe you would never have predicted, but now it's like, oh,
never.
yeah, that makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense. Totally makes so much sense now, but I never in a million years what I think, like looking back in um, design school, you know, I really wanted to design, I knew I wanted to design public places. I never was as like driven towards residential, but it never really like, you know, I practiced yoga since I was 21 and I'm going to be 37 this year. It never really like occurred to me like, oh, you could design yoga retreat centers. Like that's a niche of design. It never even occurred to me, which is hilarious
Yeah.
that, you know, and I really think, you know, I've been somebody who always is, you know, very driven, very a go-getter. And it's taken me a long time to realize how many people are in my corner and are, you know, rooting me on and do want the best for me. And to be able to, um, you know, reach out to them or lean on them for, you know, the support to be able to push me in different directions, or to support a direction that I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I just, you know, I really value like the friendships that I've made over the past couple years, my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my mentors. I could not do what I'm doing without their knowledge, teaching, support. Like I just, you know, I think it really shows like you surround yourself with the people who you like. My mom always says you're judged by the company you keep, right? Like she always told me that growing up. And I feel like, you know, sometimes you cycle through friends and people are in your life for a reason or season or, you know, whatever. And some people are in your life for forever. But I think once you start walking towards what you really want to do, you're going to attract people that are going to push you and support you in that direction. And I think that is just so like important, and it's so important to have people in your corner. It really is.
Yes, I totally agree. And, you know, I wanted to, well, I'll briefly tell people, you know, who I am too. I do positive psychology coaching and help individuals who want to discover work they want to do, you know, kind of merging their interests, passions, and strengths. And when I talk about strengths, and we'll talk about that more in this conversation, but, you know, when people are doing things that they naturally do well and they're optimizing on that rather than trying to fix things they're, you know, maybe it doesn't come easy or just doesn't feel like, kind of feels like a little resistant or not natural. It's just way more beneficial to put, you know, that time and energy into, you know, things you do naturally well. And I wanted to touch on that with you in a little bit, but I wanted maybe, you to kind of tell people how you got interested in this in the first place. I know you kind of moved from design to what you're doing now, but you want to tell people about how you got interested in what you do now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had always been, like, since I mentioned before, like I always had been doing yoga since I was like, in my early 20s. So like over 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always something that I did, on this, like on the side. Like I'd always work out and then I'd do like my once a week yoga class and I'd be like, yay, or, a couple times a week or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until, so my mom, I kind of mentioned before, so my mom got sick. And I think even before that, my whole life, I've always been somebody who people would tell their problems to. People would reach out for support. I always was naturally like an assistant, right? And I even was that, like straight out of college, I was an executive assistant. That was what I did because I'm really good at supporting people, right? So I always kind of knew that. And then working in the corporate world, my mom got sick. And in the midst of that, I found out I had cancer. And so not only was I caring for my mom, but I had to like be really strong because I should have been the one resting. And, as much as my family supported me and, was there for me, I ultimately moved home. I was, up at 3 a.m. taking care of my mom. Um, I don't think I think my mom tried to be strong in front of a lot of our family, and I kind of got the brunt of it being there that whole time. And when I went back to the corporate world, I realized very quickly that my perception of what stress was and the reality of stress had completely shifted. You go to work and like to make a joke about, like office space, right? You're like, oh, did you get the TPS report? Like it's just like people that think, you go to work and like, I get it. I've worked in the corporate world. I get it. I get the kind of stress that happens day to day. But I couldn't even like see that anymore, if that makes any sense. I mean, I could see it. I knew it existed, but I couldn't take it in as stress anymore because I had been so pushed past my breaking point where it's like, just imagine having surgery on your neck. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to hold your head up and your mom is dying and you have to help your mom get up so she can puke. Like that's the reality, right? Like that was the reality of my life. So knowing that and going through that and then coming back to this environment where people are stressed out about things that are just, they're real stressors for some people, but they're just not, for me, they weren't reality anymore. And I started to notice not just people on my team, but people on other teams asking me opinions, not just about work product and how to get stuff done, but also my opinion on life, my opinion on relationships, my opinion on what they should do with this, XYZ. And when I got to that point, it really hit me. I was like, what am I doing here? Why am I working at a job where I'm stressed out all the time? And I'm not doing what I'm ultimately even here for. Do you know what I mean? Like the job that I was getting paid for and doing was not what I felt I was actually, what my purpose was for being there. And so I left. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go teach yoga. And I left and I was like, I'm never going to design again, not, and I kind of think I went over that already. But that was when it hit me like that. My purpose is to support people, to help people, to guide people into their healing because, and it's no shock to me and it's no shock to a lot of people that I teach corporate yoga. And even, walking into some of the offices that I'm at now, it's extremely like beautiful for me to watch somebody say something or do something or have a mindset of a way of thinking that I used to have, right? Like, not that I'm better than them or that I'm, we're all rocking our own paths. We're all doing our own thing. We're all learning at our own pace. But it's beautiful for me to be in front of somebody and to see like something click or, them to have a realization of something that I too had a realization of, but to be the one to be able to teach them, right? Because oftentimes you end up teaching what you've learned or things that you're personally working on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is just, I don't know, that's kind of how I decided to do what I'm doing, and that's like where it's going now. It's just been really cool to be able to support people, and that's just, I love working with people, and even not stuff related to the work that I do, but I love also being, supporting my friends and encouraging my friends. Um, I have a dear friend, and I got offered to do another corporate class, and it's at a time that I couldn't do it. I'm out of the country teaching a retreat, and I offered it to a friend, and she's super, super stoked, but she's learning to set things up and learning to do things. And it feels really good to know that I took the time and learned something, figured something out, and then I can then go support my friends. Like, because that's what it's all about, is helping each other. No one's better than anyone else. Nobody knows more than anybody else. It's just, we all have different skills. We all have different strengths. And when you can let go of like, oh, like I have to, the ego of like, I have to be better than this person, I can't help anybody. When you can let that go and you can just surround yourself with people that are helping you and people that you're helping, like that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, why you feel like helping people, supporting people with their healing work, why has that been so meaningful for you to do?
It just because it's like it's come full circle for me. Like I feel as though I've been through a lot of personal healing, and I know how good that feels when you have those aha moments or those breakthroughs of working through something. And I am so grateful to the teachers and the people that have helped me. And so it's kind of like just continuing the cycle, right? Like knowing that there are people have helped me, and then I can give back. It's kind of like it just continues to happen, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Because even as a teacher, I'm still a practicing yogi. Like I still go to my teacher's class. I'm going to Laura Love's class tonight. She's my favorite teacher. She will always be my favorite teacher. She teaches Wednesdays 5:45 at Perspective. Come join me. And then I'm doing breath work after I teach breath work. I'm doing Wendy's class. Shout out to Wendy as well. She's my breath work teacher. You like teachers always have teachers, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just, it's, yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to ask more about, for people who aren't familiar with breath work, why is doing breath work, help people with their healing process? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so the specific breath work that I'm certified to teach is 2-stage pranayama. So it's a certain pattern of breathing. So pranayama is just a fancy word for breath restriction or a pattern of breath, right? So it's the way that you breathe and the way that the pattern of breath happens, it moves you out of your fight or flight brain and into your relaxation brain. So some things that will happen during the breath. One thing that happens to me almost every time, I'll have a memory of something that happened to me when I was a kid or a few years ago, something from the past, right? And I'll have this like click or this aha moment as to how that connects to something that I'm going through in my walking life right now. And I'll have kind of okay, like everything's going to be okay, and have kind of a realization. It's also helped, like if you have, a pain in your shoulder or a pain in your chest and you just don't really know where that came from or why you have it. We all hold on to stress in different ways and in different parts of our bodies, right? Like I had thyroid cancer, right? So obviously I held a lot of stress in my throat, which is why it's really great for me to teach and speak, because speaking my truth is big with thyroid cancer, right? Mm-hmm. But so we all hold on to stress in different parts of our body, and sometimes you'll have like a pain somewhere. You might notice during the breath that it just kind of fizzles away and you don't really know why, right? And that's, again, because you're moving out of that fight or flight brain and into your deep relaxation, deep processing brain. So like if you've had a death in the family or something terrible happen, typically, if you work in the corporate world, which is why this is so beneficial for people working in the corporate world or just anybody in general, you leave to go like a day to the funeral, and then you're expected to go back to work. You do not have time. That was not meant to, like, the lives we live today are at a pace that we were never meant to live, right? So we don't have time to process things, right? You might have something come up during the breath that happened 3 weeks ago that you didn't fully process, and then you process it. It just, is, I mean, it's even for me personally, I sometimes get into like a dreamlike state where I see like like you know when you're dreaming and you remember a dream, it's kind of like that. Sometimes that's where a lot of my vision paintings come from that breathwork practice. Um, and I think as like a general, overall kind of statement about it, I feel like if you can think of it as like you're looking at your life normally, kind of like this, right? Like you can see through, you can see it, you know that it's happening, but what the breath does is it kind of does this, right? And I'll notice for about a week, I feel like the veil's been lifted, and then slowly but surely it starts to come back, and I'm like, oh God, it's Wednesday, I better go back to breath work. You know what I mean? So it's something that I personally do every week. The actual breath I usually do for about 30 minutes, but it's something you can do in the morning for like 5 to 7 minutes. But yeah, it's just a specific pattern that I think it's great. It was developed by David Elliott, for those who don't know. My teacher Wendy was trained by David, and I was trained by Wendy, so I'm not far from the tree of the training on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
it's yeah.
I've tried breath before, and for me, it's been really powerful. I mean, and that's why I was going to ask you if it was safe for people to practice on their own, just because it's
Yes.
okay.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you are more curious about it, I can show you right now, but you won't be able to see my stomach, so you won't really be able to see a good demonstration of it. Because you know how the camera like cuts it off, and I have to like
No,
stand and be
like
like, okay. um, but I actually have on my website, if you go to my website, there's a link to my YouTube channel. For the first like 6 months of the pandemic, I was teaching on Instagram Live actually. And I uploaded all of my classes on there. So if you ever wanted to do one, I tell you like at the beginning what playlist on Spotify to put on, and then you
oh,
can just
cool.
listen to me and I guide you through it. But it's absolutely safe to do for a few minutes, like in the morning, just sitting up like 5 to 7 minutes. But if you're going to do more than like 7 minutes, I recommend, laying down in Shavasana. And yeah, you can totally just go to my YouTube channel
Cool.
and do that, or find my playlist and just know like about where things happen in my playlist, because they're all on Spotify.
Right. Yeah, and I'll
Yeah,
include your website too in the footnotes of this episode. So
cool,
I would definitely want to check that out. And
cool.
I know you left the corporate world kind of being like, I'm done with designing, I'm done with, the stress of this job. And, when you had a lot of major life events come up. And why, I'm curious, when you did pursue yoga, like, why has it been so important for you to not only leave corporate and try to do something else, but make your own business with what you're doing?
It's been really important, because I feel sometimes like some people, I think, can exist in the corporate world, and they like that I'm going to show up on this day, I'm going to do this. They like the, what's the word, consistency of it, I guess.
Predictable.
um and and I am somebody who, I've always had an artistic mind. I've always, even as a kid, my mom, she would put up butcher paper, I can remember, in the kitchen, and she would tell us to sit and draw. Like my brother and I would sit drawing on the wall for hours, And I think, I'm not sure where, and I was thinking about this earlier today, but I'm not sure where I got this idea in my head, but I got the idea in my head that in order to be successful in life, you go to the corporate world, you get a corporate job, that's what you do, because that's the, like that's the way to live, right? Maybe it's because that's the American way. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know why I had that in
Say
my
that
head.
a lot to do
Um,
with listening from what we're told for so long, like, because
yeah.
is risky. So
Yeah, and I mean, I graduated high school at 17. I started college when I was 17, because I have an October birthday. So I graduated college. I had just turned 20, like I turned 21, and it's like, I had no idea that, I didn't really know that you could do what you wanted to do, even though I feel like my mom had always told me that, because my brother is a musician. So I always think I innately like knew that, but I think I thought that this was the way to go. So once I think I realized my true purpose, which is, to help people and to help facilitate others' healing, as well as my own, I think that is when it became so important to me to do this, and to really, um, you know, just yeah, help people. And make it what I did, because I think when you're guided by um, money and making sure that you're quote unquote financially stable, when you're doing that, you're doing it wrong. Sorry. I don't know if I should tell anybody. That's like my own judgment placing upon, like I should be practicing non-judgment as a yogi. But um, I believe that when you are living your life from your heart, when you're truly like stepping into your purpose and truly doing it, the money will come, the success will come. It might not come at first, like I'm not like making hordes of money yet, like that's not where I'm at, right? But I have slowly but surely done better and better and better and better. It's a process, right? I've only been I mean, it's just been just over 2 years that I left the corporate world. So it's a process, right? They say it takes like 5 years to really build that successful business. And I think you just have to be determined and put in the work and put in the time because, you know, maybe it's fulfilling for you to work in the corporate world. Maybe it's fulfilling to you to fulfill someone else's dream. Maybe that is your purpose, right? That is a lot of people's purpose. But I think for people like me, having a life-changing event, I really felt called to walk into my purpose. And yeah, yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Definitely. Hence, yeah, I mean, going through something like that would change you for, I think your lens of how you view things, like you said, going back into work and being like, okay, this is not that stressful. Maybe it was to other people, but you're like, I just had surgery on my throat. Like, I can't imagine going through that kind of shift. I feel like it would just kind of like shake you up, from the core, like a foundation. And I think, push you to seek things in a deeper way. Is this really what I want to be doing? Because it is so easy to get caught up in a routine. And I think, the silver lining of this past year has probably been that people have been pushed to reflect more. There's
Yeah,
not a lot. I mean,
absolutely.
obviously, like everyone has had their own different level of stress and affected differently by the pandemic. But
Yeah,
I think a lot of people,
everybody.
yeah, to push to sit down and say, is this really what I want to be doing? And is this having that time, because when you're on autopilot, when you're just going in your routine and you don't really, I think it's hard to take that time to think like, what do I really want to do? So hopefully that has been something that people have had the opportunity to do this past year, and so that when they think about they don't have to wait for a life-changing event to happen like what you went through to
No.
and I know that happens, I think, for a lot of people when they get older, when they have, illnesses pop up, it's like kind of a reality check. So I can definitely understand, wanting to make a shift into something more meaningful and,
Yeah.
thinking about your dharma, your purpose, and what you want to be doing. So,
Yeah.
with the work you're doing now, and then just going back to the whole business stuff, I think when you were saying, I don't know where I got it from that I should be doing corporate, I'm like, well, I think that's pretty much what we're told from
Yeah. And
even,
I think our parents' generation too,
yeah,
right? Like I know, like even talking with friends' parents, and I won't name any names, but different parents, they think their mentality is you go to work, you hate your job, you bitch about it, you complain about it to everybody, and then you do the same thing again the next day, right? And I think that that mentality, that was the way that people lived. And I think a lot of people, I guess technically I'm a millennial, but I'm going to be 37 this year. I don't consider myself a millennial. I have no clue. Like I had to learn
yeah, I don't,
Instagram and all this. But okay, I TikTok. I don't know what's happening. Don't ask me. I have no idea. Don't have one.
I
Don't
don't
plan
even
to
have,
unless I get forced to. But with that, I think a lot of millennials, I think they really have it right. They're like, I don't want to go to work and hate my job. I want to love my job. I want there to be, a yoga class offered. I want there to be food included. Like, I mean, they got it right. Like they kind of took what was, and they're like, hey, that's not right.
yeah.
So I think you're right. Like that's just, it's like ingrained in our
Mhm.
society and in our culture that that's what you do. And I think it takes a lot of courage. And I think a lot of people, I mean, I know friends that I've spoken with, you know, they got laid off from their job and they've circled back with me and said, damn, Maja, like you had the courage to do this before COVID. Like,
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I got kicked out of my job because now I'm doing what I want to do, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, so it sometimes it does take a life changing event to get that courage to leave. But I also, I have another tip on that.
Yeah.
Not, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it because I'm like an open book. I like overshare everything about my life.
Oh, just
I think a lot of people are like, how did you do that, Maja? Like, how did you leave a job with like no money? Like, what did you do? Right. I didn't have hordes of money saved up. I didn't have like, you know, a lot. But what I did have, and I'm grateful for being in the corporate world and learning this, I had like a 401k, or I had these like savings, right? So not like savings in the bank, but like savings in like 401k stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I did the quote unquote stupid thing and I took that money out. That was how I survived for the first like year of doing what I did, because I wasn't making a lot of money at first. I wasn't making enough money to survive, and that was how I chose to do it, right? And even after that, I was like, uh-oh, how I'm not making enough money doing this. How am I gonna make my money? Like my money ran out, right? And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not ashamed to admit it. I delivered Postmates for like a couple months because you know what? Delivering Postmates is mindless. You can do it whenever you want and you can make a little bit of extra money to get by. So when people say like, oh, like how am I going to make ends meet? Like, oh, I don't have money saved. Like those are just excuses. Those are literally just excuses. Like if you really hate where you are, you really don't want to be where you are, leave. Like if you are working at one of those like, you know, crappy jobs that you're just working at while you're trying to fulfill your passion and you hate it, go do another crappy job that doesn't make you want to kill yourself, yeah, that you can tolerate while you are building what you do, right? Because there's certain jobs that you could work at to pay the bills, but you're working, you know, early in the morning till late at night. You're too tired after you're done to like really focus on what it is that you want to do, right? So if that job you're at is not working for you, do something that's going to get you by, because ultimately it's not about making money. It is not about having a big house. It is not about having all these things that people think are going to make you happy. It's just not. Like money does not make you happy. How many, you know, wealthy, famous people do we know that like kill themselves because of depression, right? It's because they weren't happy. You know, and it's like, that's not where it comes from. So if you feel like, oh, how many, literally go deliver Postmates. You'll make like squeak by barely, but you will make your ends meet, right? And then focus on what it is that you want to do, because then you can be flexible with your hours. You can do whatever you want to do, right? Yeah. I mean, and I think that's something that people often have a hard time realizing, that you can really do whatever you want to do. It's all about it. You have the choice. Like every single thing you do in your life is a choice.
Right. Yeah. And I think you're right. There is, I know in a lot of business groups now, and there's just not a lot of discussion sometimes around people. In a lot of the business groups I'm in are female based, you know, people identify as women. And I think that's what's been so tricky for me, and, you know, for just navigate. I think anytime you go leave corporate, leave the mainstream, leave that safety of, you know, predictability or what people, you know, say they should be doing. It's been a kind of a reality check for me too, to see like how hard we have made it to make, like, for people to start their own business. And yeah, like there aren't as many. A lot of people that I know that have had a partner to lean on, or they're not that financially independent, or, you know, they're not in charge completely of their financial security. So they have, but, you know, if you're somebody who's single or you don't have that luxury, it's like you have to get really creative with how
I got so creative, creative, so much creation. I mean, that's all you can do. Like, yeah. And I mean, people probably like could tell me, you know, like, oh, why did you do that? That was like the worst financial decision of your life.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. First of all, shut up. Second of all, I just reopened a 401k. Don't worry. You know what I mean? Like, it took me 2 years to do that. I figured it out. I turned it around. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be 37 this year. I'm not like 45 and doing something silly like that. And if I was 45, I would have had a lot more savings. So it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can literally make whatever you want to make work. You can. You really can. I came from a single mom. I lived in a tiny apartment growing up. Like you know, like just the idea of not having is just so it can take you out of where you should be going. You know, like that fear, right? You just got like you got to make fear your best friend. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I can give any advice, make fear your best friend. Because if you're scared to do something, that means you should do it. Obviously, not like jumping off a cliff. Obviously, like that's a no. Unless you're like, what's it, like skydiving, which I don't plan to do that. I'll probably pee myself. But yeah, like fear is your best friend, and just like Maston Kip says, like give yourself some grace. You know, like make a few mistakes, do a few things wrong, like.
Mm-hmm. I know, and I have a lot of opinions too about, I haven't worked too long in the corporate world, but one of my classes, well, first thing I wanted to say is when we talked about it in one of my creativity, I took a creativity psychology course in my master's program, and we talk about how constraints are actually like help fuel your creativity. So when you have like too much openness, too many choices, too much this, like you are actually like not pushed to be as creative as you could be. But thinking about, if you're in a situation where there are those constraints, you need to figure it out on your own, you need to make it work. You will get creative. Like you delivering Postmates, I've done dog walking, waiting tables. I cannot imagine doing waiting tables ever again, but
Yeah,
it's
I don't really want to deliver. Oh my God, I have some funny delivering Postmates stories. Oh my God, I had a really stoned out guy try to tell me he didn't order food, and it was his address. His like, he said he already got it. I think he ordered it twice. I mean, it's just.
yeah, funny story. Yeah, it's like okay, but there are so many things that you can still learn from those odd jobs. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's constraints can be fuel. They can fuel your creativity. And so that was just something I wanted to add to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then going back to the thing I mentioned in the beginning with positive psychology and strengths, looking at your strengths. What strengths do you feel like you're bringing to the work you're doing now? Because when I talk about working with your strengths, that's what's going to keep that sustainable energy. That's when you are engaged in your strengths, you'll notice that you feel energized, or like that was so easy, or it just feels like it's not even work. And
Yeah.
most people are not at that self-awareness where they can identify this is a weakness, this is a strength. But we're told so many times, oh, if you're not good at that, just keep getting better, keep practicing. And really what positive psychology is saying is like, actually you can't be good at everything.
No, you
You
can't.
have to like let go of the shit that you're not good at and just focus on the things that you do naturally well. And then when you build on those, that's when you can perform at like kind of a mastery level with things. You can optimize that skill set to, if you look a lot of athletes, that's basically what they're doing. They're able to do something they do naturally well, and then they've just like optimized it, they've mastered it. And so I was curious what strengths do you feel like you're using now with your work?
Oof. Well, right now I feel like my strength is that I'm extremely motivated, I am a doer, and I am organized, because right now I'm at a phase in my business where I am trying to figure out, I'm still coming up with a way of how to have somebody help me because
Yeah.
I don't really have much money to pay them yet. I
Yeah.
will have money to pay them. I need to correct the way that I speak. Um, so I'm kind of having to do everything. Like I'm my own bookkeeper. I do my own taxes. I do my own
Oh,
marketing. I do my own website. I teach all my classes. I do all my like I do everything myself. So right
mhm.
now I feel like I'm a do-it-all person, and I feel like um, I I am good at obviously designing, right? So I'm good at doing the that kind of work, right? I'm good at putting things together, and I'm very organized. Um, but right now, it's hard to answer that question because I feel like I'm I'm doing it all right now, and I
Yeah.
know that I'm doing things that are not necessarily my strengths or things that are pushing me out of my comfort zone, and really having to like step it up for myself. But I think that that's just making me, in at this point, stronger.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm definitely, I think my two strengths that are benefiting me right now are that I'm a go getter, I'm organized, and yeah,
Would,
I guess that's how I
what,
would answer
yeah.
that.
What would you say like the two or three things that you like to do the most in your business, and then the other like for me,
Oh,
I don't do my taxes. Like I've been outsourcing that for years because I'm like the thought of that is horrible to me.
yeah,
But you know, for me, designing my own website is so easy, and like I love doing that, and it doesn't feel like work. But then you know, yeah, like taxes or something like that. It's so, I mean, to me that's such a struggle, like taxes and doing money type stuff like that is such a struggle that I've just for years been like no
yeah,
thank you. But
yeah,
I'm curious what you feel like in your business, you know,
yeah.
something that you really enjoy doing and that feels easy.
Yeah. To piggyback on what you just said, I'm grateful for the first job that I had out of college when I was 21. I'm grateful to the accountant that left me as the one who had to do the bookkeeping for 3 months. I'm so grateful to that woman now because guess what? I learned how to do my bookkeeping. But that is not, I would not say that is my strength. I'm just organized enough to do it. But my strengths right now, I think my two favorite things that I do, obviously teaching yoga. I love teaching yoga. Um, is something I feel that I'm really able to read the room and feel into how everyone's feeling in the class today, and I'll shift and pivot whatever. Because I generally, I always have an intention. I generally kind of know what it is that I'm going to teach and what it is that I'm going to do.
Mhm.
But I've really cultivated an ability to shift and pivot the class dependent upon um, where I feel people are at. And that's something that I feel like takes a little bit of time to start to cultivate. And I'm still, even though I've been practicing for a long time, I've technically only been teaching, what is it, like 2.5 years now. Um, so I'm excited to see how that becomes even more of a strength for me. And another thing that I really love during my like private Reiki sessions, I've realized I've always kind of had a little bit of a psychic ability and a little bit been able to read
Mhm.
people and know what's going on without them, ever saying anything to me. But it's been really beautiful to be able to, tap into to helping someone heal, but also tap into things that they've been through and be able to talk to them about things that they've been through, and have a knowing of it and an understanding and an explanation and be able to help them walk through that. Um, and even with, for me, that's been really beautiful in person, obviously, but also with the distance sessions, I've had some of my most powerful Reiki sessions be with people who live on the East Coast, who don't even live, in California.
Yeah.
Um, and so that is something that I really love, working with those individuals and, being like when I'm done with the session, during the session, I'll write notes of different things that came up
Mm.
with from me at each chakra as I go through them. And when I share that with them, they're just like, oh my God, like, wow. And so that for me has been, really powerful that I'm able to help them with that. Because as I mentioned, I really, I feel my true purpose is to help others heal. So when I'm able to do that during those sessions, that's been like really, really inspiring for me. Um, I don't know. I think the third thing, I'll say one other thing. I think that the design work that I've done, um, and Andrea, working with Andrea, my dear friend, I feel like we have an unsaid understanding, and that's really beautiful to be able to, because I feel like a lot of the work I did in the corporate world, you're given a specific job, a specific task, a specific project, thing that you're supposed to create, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of creativity in that. I didn't feel like I could utilize my talents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really beautiful to come up with an idea or come up with a way or a solution for something that was what my dear friend Andrea was already thinking. So it's almost like not only am I coming up with the ideas and helping to facilitate the design, but we're on the same page. And so that's been really special for me to be able to work with somebody who has run a successful historic preservation business for so long, and to have her see something in me and to have her and I be on the same page with the design. That's also been really cool because it makes me feel like I'm facilitating healing. I'm facilitating this like same purpose, right?
Right. So yeah, I was going to say, just based on what you're talking about, your strengths, just the ones you're talking about, is being like pretty deeply empathetic to people.
Yes.
And then creative. And
yes.
Yeah, like you're being able to design these retreat centers. It's almost like you're designing spaces for people to then go through that healing process, even if
Correct.
you're not physically there in all of them.
Right.
You're going to be teaching in some of them. So
right.
Yeah, I love that concept. I love that, you've been able to merge both of those things. And, I think that's why when you're using your strengths, that it sounds like, when you're talking about them, even you're more excited and there's more energy, more inspired.
Yeah. Versus like, bookkeeping. I got to do my bookkeeping. I haven't done it for a few days. Oh my God.
And we all have things that we're not great at, but if the more, if you can have your main focus be on those things that, you do well, and, for you having that creative outlet seems pretty important because you have a lot of creative energy you need to put into something. So
yeah, even developing the classes becomes a creative process for me, right? Like different movements, because I figure skated before this, so I wasn't a dancer, but I mean, figure skating is basically dancing on ice skates, if for those that don't know that. So I have that background in me. So, and I'm a creative person, so I try to really incorporate, everything. One movement flows from one to the next. There's no static movement in my classes at all. Like it's very connected and flowing from one to the next.
Cool. That's awesome. And one of the things we talked about earlier with leaving your corporate position, and I know you've talked about other people who've been laid off, and how have you been able to sustain that confidence with leaving something you were comfortable with and stepping into creating this new business, or kind of carving out your own career path in a way? What's helped you stay confident?
Oh boy.
I know we're not.
I think it goes like this. I think confidence goes like this, right? It's like riding a wave. I think, as much as I want to believe I'm confident all the time, and as much as I think to the outside, to people that don't see me every day, they're probably like, wow, she's really confident. Like, I'm fooling you. I'm totally fooling you. I am confident. I am very confident, but I think a lot of it is, I have my moments where I don't feel as confident, but I'm somebody who doesn't give up. Like, I'm not a quitter. Like, if you're gonna go out on your own and you're gonna give up, like, no, that's not an available option. One, and two, when I hit my lowest of lows, I'm grateful because I've now been with my husband almost 4 years. So I made the decision to leave the corporate world while I was dating him. We're both artists, so it's not like I'm in a position where, I don't have to work or worry about money. Like, we're both equal everything. We both split everything, right? So, I think having him in my corner, I think at first he was like, you're doing what? Like, you're the one with the stable job. I'm the artist, right? Like, I think at first he thought that. And after I explained to him, I was like, no, look, like, this is what I thought I needed to do. I never really like stepped into my purpose. I never really figured out what I wanted to do. And he was like, you're right, you should do that. And I'm like, okay. So ever since then, he's definitely, I mean, obviously I have, great friends, great family. And a lot of the friendships that I've recently cultivated have definitely, or manifested, have definitely been a supportive system to me. But I think, the number one thing that has kept me going is my husband, because at the time he was my boyfriend, then my fiance, and most recently my husband. Because he's the one that lives with me. We've lived together for, I think, almost 3 years now. And so he's seen me at my lowest lows. He's seen me at my highest highs. And I think when you have somebody that tells you, like, maybe tomorrow will be better, like, you can do this, just go for it. What's the worst that could happen, And I think that I don't know that it's like anytime I forget my confidence, he's always there to remind me. So I think that has been, just like so important to have, if it's not your significant other, like a best friend or, a family member, somebody that when you're at your lowest moment can like jet you back up,
Yeah.
because as much as I want to believe I'm confident all the time, which I generally am, I generally don't really, care when anyone thinks. I just, do my own thing. But I do have moments, and
Yeah.
you've got to have people in your corner in order to maintain that.
Right. Yeah. And that's something I like to talk about with people in these interviews is like, where are you getting your support, and not financially necessarily, but where is your emotional, and like, who are your cheerleaders? Who are the people
Oh,
that you feel safe sharing things with,
yeah,
because
definitely
Mhm.
Chris, definitely Andrea. Shout out to Andrea, Laura, Prakash Nam, my Reiki teacher, Wendy, my Aunt Mo, who
Yeah.
else? My brother. There's just people that are in my corner for different, right, at different things, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
mostly it's Chris because he sees the bad. He lives with me. He sees it when it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think that makes sense I like to tell people like having a support system, almost like a spider web of like what is supporting you. I mean, you need to have that, especially if you're, trying to do something different, whether it's a business or pursue, something outside the norm, I think. I mean, for me personally, I've done a lot of different things that I think a lot raised eyebrows with people, moving here or trying this or teaching at this school that was, not traditional and not even in the U.S. And so,
good
I
for
think,
you for doing it.
but you have to have people. There's so many people. If I had, just listened to people who were like, that sounds scary, or that sounds like, I don't know about that idea, and you
Yeah.
need to have people who kind of can support your vision. And it sounds like Chris is able to see that long-term vision for you, like when you are having the ups and downs, knowing that, okay, you're still on your path, you're still pursuing this thing that you want to be doing. So
And
yeah, I like that.
I think also with that, obviously, like if it's family that's saying any of those things in your ears, which sometimes it is,
Mhm.
unfortunately, sometimes family is just trying to look out for you, just trying to tell you to do the right thing, even though their right thing is a projection of their own blocks, right? Um, I think for me, there's been a lot of friendships in my life that have either shifted or are no longer there because when I started to really do what I wanted to do, and there were definitely people that I considered, dear friends or that were in my life that um, I did not get the support from. I did not get the um, pat on the back that I needed. And it was hard, for a minute there because there was a shift from, all of my friends that were in the corporate world and that mindset
Mhm.
to all of my friends who are yoga teachers, who are artists, who are doing what I'm doing. And it's funny for me to now see the difference between the two. And I'm not saying the corporate world is bad. There's still people who work in the corporate world who would still cheer me on, right? But there are friends or people that were in my life that I unfortunately, were in my life for a season and for a reason, and they're not anymore because they did, make me feel like crap. And it's like, you don't need that when you're trying to, head in your path and head in your direction. You need to have people cheering you on because that's what it's all about. Like living a fulfilled, happy life. You're not going to be happy if you're not doing what you want to do and you're not living your purpose.
Right. Yes. And I call them dream killers. That's a phrase
I
I
hate it. It's like, don't be my dream killer. Bye.
so what, when thinking back to when you left your corporate job, and I know you had a lot going on there with your illness and your mom's illness, but, what advice for somebody maybe who wasn't going through something catastrophic like that, but does still have this, I'm unhappy or I know I need to be doing more and they have something they want to pursue, but they might be, scared to take the leap. What's some advice that you would give to people?
Make fear your best friend. I think I kind of touched on that before. Like, fear is your best friend. If you are just like, oh, I want to do this so bad, I don't know how to do it. Like, first of all, you do. You know more than you think you do. Is that right? Did I say that right? You know more
Yeah.
than you think you do. And I think, if you're stuck, start looking up other people that have done it. Ask people how they did it. Like I can't tell you how many people, like even before I fully had realized my purpose when I was just teaching yoga, people were like, why did you do this? How did you do this? And I ultimately, I just did. Right? Just like take the leap, take the jump, like just get a little bit of courage, do it. And like I said, like if you're like, how am I going to do this financially? You will figure it out. If it is something that you really want to do and you really feel like it's your true purpose, don't sit there being like, oh, after I make this much money or after this thing, like no, like if you really want to do it, just do it. Like that's literally like Nike, just do it. It literally, I mean, I know it takes a lot of bravery. I know it takes a lot of courage, but figure out, don't try to figure out everything. Try to figure out what's the next step, right? Like maybe the first step is leaving the job that makes you miserable and delivering Postmates so you can focus, or I keep leaning on that, but maybe it's working at Starbucks or whatever kind of job it is, or waitressing, like you said. Just, just, just do it. I mean, I don't know. I think if you're miserable, like that's no way to live, like, and I think a lot of us think that you're supposed to, I mean, how many memes, I still laugh at them. How many memes on Instagram are there that are like, oh, this is what you do when you send an email, you copy your boss because that way, like all these things that you do when you're in that world. It's like, I mean, or if you're working at a job that is like, you know, not where you want to be and you have free time, don't sit during your free time going, oh, like I don't, like do something about it, like get off your booty and do something about it. Make a change, come to one of my yoga classes. I'll like slap the silly out of you.
Or the virtual ones, yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say, one when you were talking about that, a podcast episode that came to mind. Kimmy Werner, she's this freediver in Hawaii who I love to follow. But I remember before I even went back to school, it was a few years ago, and I was living in Hawaii, but sort of back and forth too on the East Coast, and she talked about how she's pursued this sort of different career, being a spear fisherman woman and a freediver. And she was like saying how it always felt like she was walking through this dark cave.
Oh, absolutely.
Just
Dark
like,
caves for days.
right, just navigating through it. So she just had to figure out like what's the next right step, because sometimes you can't even see what's ahead. For you, like maybe the first right step was leaving the corporate job. Like your body was physically breaking down. You needed to heal on a physical level too, and the stress of that corporate world, I don't think would have helped with that. But then, okay, the next step was getting your, yoga teacher training, and then the next step, and then now it's like led to this. Now you're designing retreat centers, which I love that you're doing that. It's
Yeah.
cool.
And I actually was in my teacher training and working in the corporate world still. And I left my job while I was in the middle of my teacher training.
Okay. So yeah.
So I was like really like out.
Yeah.
Bye. Done.
Right.
Gotta go help save people. See you later. That was literally, I was going to say something else he said, but the cave thing, that's a really great way to describe it. And I think I did a video like a while back about like, you don't need to know what the heck you're doing. You just need to know what the next step is, right? Because when you get overwhelmed by all of the things that you could, should, need, maybe thinking about, that's where you get overwhelmed. All you need to know is what's the next step. Like for me, I'm like, okay, the next step is doing this Instagram live. The next step is I have to send a video to my Aunt Mo. The next step is I have to teach a yoga class, a corporate yoga class. And then it's like, the next step, I have to send a flyer out to a potential corporate yoga class, right? It's like, and then it just kind of, everything starts to fall into place and you're so busy that you naturally will take the next step, you know? Even when you first leave, it's like, okay, maybe I should start a website. I don't know how to build a website. Talk to somebody who does. Talk to me. I figured it out. It's not that hard. You just figure it out. Google it. Google's great. Google your best friend. Google it.
Yes, I've Googled so much shit in the last
year.
So
much. So many things. Or like words. I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is. Google it.
No, I love that. And I think hopefully a lot of people who listen, tune into this will, I know for me, when I was listening to that story of her talking about, what's the next right step, that visual is helpful for me to come back to, especially so much uncertainty this past year on a societal level. And I think now we're sort of, we have been stepping into our new normal, and there's less of that, scarcity fear factor going on all the time where your like nervous system is on overdrive.
Yeah.
And now, we can think about the future, but I think it's still helpful to break it down into steps, but still having for you that overall vision, purpose you keep coming back to is I want to help people heal. And yeah, I love that. So tell everyone what you're working on now and, what projects you're doing, how people can support you.
Oh gosh. Well, I should say, so I never really thought that I was going to be leading retreats, after I designed them. I didn't think that would be something that I was doing so soon in my teaching career. But I'm co-leading a yoga retreat in Costa Rica, with my Reiki teacher. We leave August 6th. So I am super excited. We sold out. I'm so grateful. There's 16 people coming with us, to Costa Rica. We're going to be on the Caribbean side, at Tierra de los Sueños Retreat Center. So I'm really excited about that. And that has catapulted me to realize that, wow, I do want to lead some more retreats before I'm finishing these designs on the retreat centers, because that would also be how I can learn, okay, what is at this retreat center? What isn't? What do I like? What do I not like? What do I think I can improve, right? Because that's how you learn as a designer. You take something that you see and then you say to yourself, how can we make this better? How can we improve this, right? A great designer, doesn't just come up with something that's been done before. They look at something and try to improve it, right? So with that being said, I have 2 phone calls over the next 2 weeks, in 2 different locations. I don't even know if I should say, but I'll just say I got contacted by 2 different retreat centers that are totally unrelated. One of them does retreats in Iceland. I'm hoping to lead a retreat in Iceland early next year. If not early next year, then maybe the following year. They said they're really booked up, but I'm really interested to lead one in Iceland, because how many yoga retreats have you heard are in Iceland? Like, never? Who wants to do yoga under the northern lights? This girl. So
Iceland's like a hot place to visit or travel to now. So.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go, and so I'm like, why not do it? And then I also got contacted by a yoga retreat center in the Sacred Valley of Peru. And I actually did a retreat there with my teacher, Laura Love, and I had the most beautiful experience. Never thought that I would lead one there. So that is something that is a possibility. So there's these 2 retreats that are kind of up in the air right now. I don't know the dates, but that's something I'm working on. right now the design projects I'm on are on pause. But the two projects that I'm working on, one is in Palm Springs and one is in Tulum in Mexico. So those are the first of six. And I don't even know if I can say the other locations. I don't know. But they're all over the world. It's pretty exciting. A lot of locations where you wouldn't expect a yoga retreat center. So that's super exciting. And then I teach corporate yoga. So that's something that's been happening a lot lately. I just got contacted by another company. And one thing that I'm really excited to hopefully bring to this company, they are looking for more than just a yoga class. They want some like yoga philosophy taught. And I was really excited to hear that they already had somebody come present about the 7 spiritual laws of success, which I thought was super cool. And so they're looking to maybe do some breath work or yoga and meditation, but I think even more looking to do more like a team building thing where, you know, and I'm thinking of having, you know, a topic every week of, you know, like this week we're focusing on, you know, present moment awareness and why that's important. So that is also something that I offer with my corporate classes, just a lot of the yogic philosophy that I learned. I think a lot of people get a stigma that yoga is a religion, right? Which it is. It's a part of a religion, right? But there's also a lot of great teachings from it and a lot of great ways of just like living and understanding life. And you know, like I identify with a lot of different religions and a lot of different things, but I think, you know, it can be other than that. And you know, being spiritual is not necessarily believing in God. They're two separate things, and I think sometimes people forget that. But yeah, I think what else is going on? I teach a lot. I do a lot of Reiki sessions in person and virtual. I do moon rituals every new and full moon. I lead in my backyard of my beautiful little cottage here in Costa Mesa. We do a little meditation in the beginning, like a 10-minute meditation. And then we do a gentle flow class where we do some moon salutations to honor the moon, whether it be a full or a new moon. And then we do the 2-stage pranayama breath work that I talked about earlier. And that kind of trifecta makes the moon ritual, and I share Reiki during it. And, you know, I feel like the reason that I do those is it is in honor of my mom, because my mom was always very guided by the moon. She always talked about it growing up. And during COVID, I had the crazy idea to start doing these because yoga studios closed and, you know, no longer existed. And when they started saying you could do stuff outside, I was like, I'm going to lead these in my backyard. I don't care. and so I did, and people came, and now every 2 weeks I have like 12 people coming. So yeah, I think that's kind of all the
I love
balls that I have up in the air right now.
So great. And
yeah.
people want to find out, you see you have your Instagram and your website on there, and that kind of has all of the updates on what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I keep my website updated. Again, I update it myself. You know, yeah, not an expert, but a decent job is done.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm on my Instagram all the time. I'm always letting people know what's going on. So yeah, can find me, reach out to me. I love hearing from you. I love when people are like, what do I do? Oh my God. Like I love helping people. So.
And if you feel like people are, you know, on the beginning journey of their healing process, where do you think is a good place for them to start? You know, yoga or doing the pranayama, or where would you suggest people kind of starting if they know they're, because I think sometimes people don't even realize, like, I need to heal. Like, I think we all have some healing to do.
Absolutely.
And it's maybe not as obvious. Maybe it takes a big event in your life to happen, or, you know, childhood trauma or whatever you've gone through. But I think we all on some level need to heal. And, you know, where would you suggest people starting with that?
I suggest that they start wherever they feel called to start, right? Like maybe it's with me, maybe it's with one of my teachers. If you're, I think breath work is super powerful. I think that's a good place to start. If I were to have approached what I know now, that's where I would have started. But I think go where you feel called. You know, I had somebody, you know, make a free call with me the other day, and I talked with them, and she's like, you know, I just want to be a part of a community. I just want to, you know, come, and I don't really know where to start. And I said, just come to my part class. Come to my part class on Saturday. See if you like it. You know, you'll get a taste of my Reiki because I share Reiki during Shavasana. You know, we breathe during the class. You'll kind of hear me talking and see if you even, you know, want to join us, right? So I think wherever you feel called, wherever you know, wherever you want to go. And if you don't know where to go, talk to me about, you know, what you're going through, what you're trying to work through, and from there maybe I can, you know, guide you a little bit better, because I think it's different for everybody, you know.
Yeah.
Like I think some people, you know, maybe they sit a lot all day, you know, at their job, and so maybe, you know, they need to move more and move their body and use their body. So maybe starting with yoga is better than starting with breath work, you know. It kind of
Yeah.
is. I feel like it's not, there's not like one um
One
like,
answer.
yeah, I feel like it could be whatever
Yeah.
you want it to be, and if you don't know, ask me, I'll help you figure it out.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's so true. I think, yeah, letting yourself be called to what I know for me, it was therapy first, and then it moved into different things. But, you know,
Yeah,
it can look different for everybody. So,
totally.
well, thank you so much. It
Thank
was
you so much.
great, and all of your awesome projects. I'm just so inspired by all the work you're doing.
Thank
It's really,
you.
yeah, very
Thank you
cool.
so much. I
It's cool
really appreciate that.
evolving. Yeah, it's great. So, you know, thank you for coming on here and sharing, you know, some of your tips too and advice based on
Yeah,
what you've learned. Because I think people can learn a lot just from, you know, other people's experiences, their stories, and what they found that worked, what didn't. You know, I think there's always something you can learn from other people. So,
absolutely. I'm still learning. I'm not perfect either.
well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Definitely be in touch. And if
Okay,
anybody
sounds good.
wants to connect with Maja, she has her Instagram account. She is very active on it, and
Yay.
you know, website with all the information and
Yeah,
one of the offerings that you have virtual and in person. So go check it
yeah, absolutely.
out. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take
Okay,
care. Have a
bye.
beautiful day. Bye.